Welcome, everyone. And when I say everyone, I am talking about over 3,700 of you all who have signed on today to talk about how we heal. Welcome, and thank you for being here. I am Dr. Shairi Turner, an internist, pediatrician, trauma-informed care practitioner, wife, mother, and the Chief Transformation Officer for Crisis Text Line. I am honored to be here with Dr. Alfiee Breland-Noble, who is a psychologist, a scientist, a tremendous media presence and advocate, the founder of a Coma Project, and just a supreme being in the world of mental health and people of color. Last 2 weeks, we've heard that this is not our America, right? This is not the America that we know. But I want to acknowledge, and we want to acknowledge for people of color, that this can be an America that we have seen before. Our stories can speak to daily micro and macro aggressions, to oppression, to violence. So we understand what we saw on January 6th, and we understand the juxtaposition that people like us cannot scale the Capitol with flags and weapons and plan to count ourselves among the living afterwards.
Amen.
So when people cry that this is not America, what does that do to the value of the stories of people of color? So the stories of stolen Africans, the stories of the genocide of Indigenous people, the immigrant stories of Latino and Hispanic and Asian and Indian and Caribbean people of color. I can't help but think of Langston Hughes' poem when he says, "I too sing America." We too sing America. It's just a very different song. So let's talk about this, Dr. Alfiee. Let's talk about trauma. Let's talk about the connection between what we see and what lies dormant within us that's activated by the events of recent and late in the past 400 years.
Yes.
Let's name and claim the trauma so we can talk about healing.
So for me, it's really important, as you say, to name and honor and recognize, to your point about being a trauma-informed provider, that we recognize what we're sitting in today. And it is traumatizing. It is difficult. It is something that we're all carrying and that we're all struggling with, including, I'm gonna name our allies. I have a girlfriend, Dr. Helen Sue. I'm gonna call her my girlfriend. In my head, we best friends. She's an Asian American woman, and she talks about accomplices, right? Not just allies, because ally can be passive, but she talks about accomplices. So people in the struggle with us, and all of us are carrying this weight and carrying the pain of what's unseen, what is unspoken, right? You talk about Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man. All of us feel invisible, right? Because when you see what happened at the Capitol, you already know what's the unspoken. Just as you said, the unspoken is there. That could never happen with a plethora of people of color storming the Capitol. It just never would have even gotten that far. So I just appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, my doctor, my liege, and Crisis Text Line, and the campaign giving us the space and the promotion and supporting this conversation, particularly now.
Let's talk about trauma. Let's talk about what trauma means.
Yes.
Right, for people of color.
Yes.
Acknowledging, though, that to witness as humans what we've seen in the past recent weeks, years, affects everyone as humans, right? But when we speak to the trauma of people of color, what are we talking about? What are we saying there?
Yeah, we're talking about lived experience. That's what we're talking about. This is day-to-day lived experience. And one of the things that I love in the conversations that you and I have had is this idea of the trauma in the moment is not the only trauma that you're ever dealing with, especially as a person of color. So this idea, I talk a lot about this idea of vicarious trauma, right? And vicarious trauma is not the negative experience that has a lasting impact on you. When I think about trauma and trying to unpack it, to me, that's like the brass tacks of it. That's the nucleus of it. It is an experience that you carry with you. I don't know that anybody ever considers trauma to be a positive experience. So it's a negative experience, and everybody's trauma is different. You and I have talked about before, we don't do trauma Olympics, right? So just because my experience as a dark-skinned Black woman might vary from your experience as a lighter-skinned Black woman, That doesn't mean that those experiences are not equally traumatic for us as individuals. So that's my definition of trauma, is that lived experience that we carry with us, that's heavy, that's negative. My mom always said, she's deceased, but she always said, and my grandma, don't define a word with a word, but that you carry with you in ways, I think, both overtly and covertly. So I really want to name this idea of racial trauma as that trauma that is rooted in the experience of experiencing racism. And what I want everybody to hear us say is that racial trauma is not about your race. You don't cause it because of who you are as a racial being. Other people cause it because of their racism. So y'all walk away from this knowing this is not on you. You don't own this. Other folks own it. They can change their racism. We can't change our race, nor do we want to.
So for us, what that can mean are things trigger, right? So a trigger is when you bring an experience from the past, an experience that lives deeply within you that may be unresolved, to the present time. And these things that we see most recently and through can bring both memories from long ago. So incidents of traumatization from our childhood can be brought to the surface. And what do we experience, right? That can come to us in different ways. We can find ourselves having trouble with sleeping, being anxious, being irritable, feeling sad, feeling like you can't get out of bed, not eating, overeating, trying to cope with those feelings that we feel have no other outlet.
Part of it is, right, you cannot solve a problem until you acknowledge that it exists. So I'll give a quick example of my recent experience. So after last week, we live in the DC area. So after last was like the epicenter. So after last Wednesday, I can remember being out just for groceries, right? I just had to run out and get a couple things, and I try to be in and out. Like I'm shopping like a French person. Whatever we eating for the day, I'm going for the day and I'm coming back home. Bonjour to all my folks who speak French out there. My French is terrible, but I'm working on it. And while I was out, not only was I hyper vigilant about people wearing masks, like, get away from me, you too close, right? You breathing on me, don't do that. Mama, don't play that. I just was like, it was worse. I don't even think I realized the layers until I got back home. So I got back home, cooked, and I could feel something bubbling. I didn't know what it was. And by the end of the night, I was in tears. I remember one more thing that happened. One of my favorite stores to shop in is Wegmans. I love that place. And I was in there and there was a man walking through Wegmans. I just had forgotten about this. Like in an army jacket, some Timberlands. He was a white male. And he had a big jacket with the fur on the hood with a mask on. So you can't see facial expressions. All you can see is eyes. And he had his hands in his pocket and he just looked so menacing. And so I was trying not to stereotype, but I was nervous. I was scared. And so by the time I got back home, I remember I was standing at the kitchen counter. My husband walks in and says something to me. And my daughter said something too. And I just started to cry. And I thought it was coming out of nowhere, but I can feel it now. But what I was experiencing was re-traumatization because that guy scared me. I thought about all those people who stormed the Capitol. I remember seeing people in those kind of coats with the fur on the hood. And I was like, is he walking around here, start casing the joint? Like, is he getting ready to do something, pull something out of that coat and hurt us? And to me, that's part of what we have to do. We have to name what we're feeling. And I wasn't even conscious that that's what I was feeling until I burst into tears. And so my husband, he was so sweet. He comforted me. And then I was able to like go sit down and meditate. So for me, some of the coping mechanisms that I use are mindful meditation, being present in the moment, allowing the thoughts to flow in and flow past, right? Not getting attached to the thoughts. Exercise, everything that you would say as a wonderful physician. Paying attention to my sleep habits, because when you're tired, you cannot take care of your mental health as well because you're tired, right? And then that brain just gets to going on its own. Being conscious of my surroundings. So as you can see in here, I like positivity. I have all positive sound. I got my little CTL teddy bear up there on top of the bookcase, and drinking a lot of water. So those are things that I like and that I tried.
I also pay very close attention to the stories that I allow into my head. Right. So the stories on the news cycles, right? Those are other people's stories. But when we watch the news repeatedly, and we're on our phone on social media. I call it the slot machine of doom
That's it.
sometimes,
That's it.
because
That's
you
it.
can be, looking for somebody's graduation or looking for that baby picture, and boom, right? Suddenly you find yourself watching a video about police brutality, right?
That's
And then
right.
there's more, and there's more, and there's the comments, and there's the feedback. And you can look up and it's an hour or two later, and you've imbibed all of that, right? You've taken it in, and it's sitting there in full activation mode, right? So for me, I am very, very mindful of the stories that I allow into my feed, right?
Hmm.
And when I say my feed, I mean my
Hmm.
mind.
I tease and say, but it's probably true. If you look under generalized anxiety disorder in the dictionary, it's probably me, right? Or the DSM, because it's real and it runs in my family. So those are things I say, is that curating your news, practicing active coping in all the ways that you shared, and taking care of other people in the ways that you post. And one thing I'll say to everybody, we all use social media. If you scrolling through your feed and you don't feel good, you need to do something with your feed to improve it. So some folks you're gonna have to just stop following. Y'all can be friends, but you don't need to follow them.
That is so true. And I want to touch on one of the other things that you said: acknowledging anxiety, acknowledging depression, acknowledging that mental health and mental illness, brain health, all of that is real. It's not something that we need to be afraid to talk about. People of color, we tend to talk about that crazy cousin, or no, no, no. We have to view our physical health and our mental health. Our brain is part of our body, right? If our brain isn't healthy, our body's not healthy. In the same way, we go to the doctor if we have a cut. We don't wait till that body part is going to fall off before we go in. So if we're experiencing little things, it's okay to find help at that point.
Yes.
You don't have to be on the brink of harming yourself
Yes.
to seek help, right?
Yes.
So what are ways that we can seek help? As the Chief Transformation Officer at Crisis Text Line,
Come on.
it is both a resource,
Come
right?
on.
It's a resource for anyone who's in crisis. It is a free, volunteer run platform by text, where you can reach out and find help, where anyone can reach out. It doesn't have to be a mental health emergency. It can be something small to something large. In the same regard, helping others, right? So a toolkit of mine is volunteering and trying to help other people. Crisis Text Line offers that opportunity as well, to
Yeah.
volunteer.
Yes.
So really, as individuals during this time, we have to pay attention to our mental health. We have to pay attention to how our mind is doing,
Yes.
and recognizing when we are not doing well,
Yes.
and being okay with that,
Yes.
and talking about it, right?
Yes.
To hear you as a mental health expert say that you have generalized anxiety disorder, that is something you have worked on and worked with, is huge, I think, for people to hear.
So what I want to emphasize about what you said is that it's the combination of caring for myself first, then I'm able to care for the other people in my life. And for the real young people, I want you to understand, sometimes it's nice to be able to talk to your friends, but I always want us to be cognizant of who are our friends that we feel safe with, right? Safety is not familiarity. Safety is you suss them out, you tell them a little secret and see if the secret spreads. And if it doesn't, maybe that's the person you can trust. And my mom told me this when I was a little kid, and I was like, mom, whatever. Everybody ain't your little friend,
That's
right? I got a black mom, and she's like, baby, everybody ain't your little friend. Some of them people need to be acquaintances. So you need to have those boxes
right.
and make sure you know who goes in what box. So it's good to be helpful. It's better when you're helpful coming from a place of peace and having helped yourself.
But to just say also that healed people heal people, right? So hurt people, healed people can heal others.
That's
So
right.
find your people, right? Find your space, find a
Mhm.
place where you feel welcome, and support those people because they will support you as well.
Amen.
So I thank you, Dr. Alfiee. I thank you, everyone who's attended this. Please reach out. Please use the resources. Continue to stay whole and stay healthy.